Good evening. I would like to welcome you to our September 3rd Board of Education meeting. Thank you for taking the time tonight to be here. I'd like to call the meeting to order. At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Dwan Craft to lead us in our invocation.
Thank you. So my invocation tonight is life is better at the beach, inspiration of living each day like you're at the beach. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, Jesus said in Matthew 12:34. This is startling, but it's also true. Think about what happens when you hold anger in your heart. You probably grumble under your breath, snap at your spouse, or rant to a coworker. Because your heart is angry, your mouth speaks angry words. When you feel joyful, if you've just had a baby, if you finally feel the sun after a long cold winter, or if you've received a promotion at work, your words are happy. You speak with excitement and wonder, you smile and laugh, and your mouth reflects the way your heart is feeling. Your beach days are filled more often than not with happy times. Who can be angry when the sunset is more beautiful than the finest art? No one can resist a laugh when jumping in the waves. The stress of everyday life lifts off your shoulders at the beach, and your thoughts and conversations are more positive. You're a pleasure to be around, and you aren't beating yourself up at the end of the day for all the words you wish you hadn't said. It's painless to think and speak positively when life feels easy. When it feels hard, it's a whole different story. It takes practice. It takes practice to compliment others or to quiet that voice of self-doubt in your mind. You'll find yourself biting your tongue more than once, and you will probably slip up many times. But the more you practice, the better you'll get. Make a list of things you're grateful for and read it every morning. As you begin thinking and speaking more positively, your heart and mind will begin to change. Others will see a difference in you. Your joyful attitude and your practice of leaving your troubles behind are bound to be contagious. Begin filtering your thoughts and guarding your tongue, and your heart will be abundantly filled with joy.
Thank you, Ms. Craft. Ms. Fallon, you have one of the students at JP Knapp that would like to lead us in the pledge?
I do. And so I invite Tyler Babcock, one of our 10th graders, up to do our Pledge of Allegiance. Tyler? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a couple changes and amend the agenda for tonight. I'd like to add an item as well as exclude 2 items. I'd like to add and make a motion to amend the agenda to add an item including the approval or the appointment of Dr. Matthew Lutz as Currituck County School Superintendent. If we can add that to the agenda. And then we have 2 exclusions. We have with the consent agenda, we'd like to pull item number 3, pull that off of the agenda and add that to our October 6th agenda. And also number 6 on the consent agenda, the second reading and adoption of revised and new spring policy updates. We need to exclude policy number 4340. Concerning school level investigations.
I make a motion that we approve, that we make to amend the agenda.
Okay, I have a first, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Well, this item with Dr. Lutz, is it going to be broken up into 2 parts? Are we going to do the contract and then that, or is it combined all in one?
It's combined.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next we have our school spotlight. Principal Denise Fallon from JP Knapp Early College.
Thank you. So thank you for letting us do our school spotlight.
It's been a very eventful start to our school year, so we just wanted to share some things with you that we've been working on. So first I'm going to back up to our summer. Okay. And so, of course, we had a lot of things going on with students this summer, even out there in that virtual world. Our FBLA competed both at the national level, and we had some students that won some awards, and our school was recognized as well. I had staff in to do some follow-up PD to virtual learning in the spring, and that really helped us make plans moving forward for the fall. Our environmental club has really got our bees going, and we're about to harvest our first bit of honey, so we're excited about that. But they worked on that all summer as well. And so, again, it was a very busy summer for us at JP Knapp. Some of the other things we did this summer, we had our first female student to graduate from COA's machining program. So we were really excited about that, Madison Amarisi. Great accomplishment for a female student. And then Coach Davenport has been working one-on-one with one of our students, Tracy Collier, throughout the spring and the summer. Tracy is pursuing acceptance to the Naval Academy, and 96% of accepted midshipmen are varsity athletes. Obviously, that is a problem at JP Knapp because we do not have varsity athletics. So they came up with a personalized plan to prepare him for those requirements that he would have to face as far as the physical portion of that admittance when he applies to the Naval Academy. So Tracy has gained quite a bit of muscle over that time, and they worked on a personalized plan. He is maxed out on pull-ups, and let me see. What are we working on? Increased his shuttle run to 8.6 seconds. Crunches, he's maxed out on crunches as well. And push-ups, he has. So doesn't have very much further to go. Just really impressed with the progress he's made. And again, Coach Davenport worked on that personalized plan with that student throughout the summer. The other two things we worked on was adding a new course to our JP Knapp schedule. If you remember, last year they did away with personal finance, and the state added a new personal finance course, so you couldn't teach the old one. So at Knapp, we ask ourselves, what are we going to do in the place of personal finance? And so, can you click on the link, or do I need to? So I asked my CTE teacher, and I only have one, Miss Julie West. Okay, that's okay. I can still talk about it. So I called Ms. West and I said, look, we need a class that's going to be a good fit for our students. Well, yes, we want it to meet their needs on a CTE level, but we want it to meet their needs as they move on to the university level. Where are we going to get the most bang for our buck? And so after some investigation of different courses, she decided to go with project management. And project management is one of those courses or fields of study that really touches on everything. And so they're working on different projects and all the pieces of the puzzle that go along with managing a project of any kind. And so they've already done their first one in the virtual world. And I think they worked on tower building as a group. And so they've worked in teams. So they work on team building as well. Ms. West also participated in an entrepreneurship training this summer to help her prepare for that. And as a result, she's gotten lots of free resources to use in that project management course, along with $1,000 to spend on projects for students. So we're trying to develop a plan. When she got that that charge card with $1,000 on it, we were really excited. So we're making plans to use that so that students can use those resources on their projects. She's thinking about maybe setting something up to get delivered home, home while they're working, but we're excited. The other part was we decided to start a virtual academy for a couple of courses just as a trial run at JP Knapp. Typically, students that take these courses, these are not courses that we teach typically. Students normally would take these through NCVPS. So Ms. Dowdy and I have asked the question for years, why do we use NCVPS when we have people here that can do the same thing? So again, we're running a trial run. I worked with teachers this summer to develop curriculum for our English 4 and American History 1. And so we've got that up and running this fall. So we're really excited about that for our students. And then we got the word that we're all going remote. And so Dr. Lutz had brought in Kevin Honeycutt to talk to us, and I wrote down some quotes. And so I love the one that said, we're just going to MacGyver this thing. We're going to figure out how to make it work. And so the question we ask is, how do we do what we do and all that stuff that's important, but we have to do this COVID style. And we have to, follow all those rules. And in my mind, it's tell me the rules and I'm going to play the game. So let's game on. Staff, we're ready. And so we first looked at 9th grade transition. Typically we do home visits. Typically we do a 2-day camp. We couldn't do those. That wasn't going to work. So what are we going to do? So we first went to what we called a ding-dong delivery. We dropped off these nice little gift bags to every 9th grader. Lots of great information that we normally share during our camp. And then we also had planned a 9th grade parent Google Meet to share information with parents as well. And so we did that. 91% participation on that parent Google Meet for 9th graders.
Oh.
Just phenomenal. And so, again, we didn't do all the fun stuff that we do at camp, but that will come whenever the students return. So we were really pleased with that. The next thing we did was look at how do we do open house / orientation, since the kids aren't going to be with us. And so all those normal first day of school things you do, we couldn't do. So we came up with an orientation plan, and we looked at primarily dealing with our face-to-face courses at JP Knapp, which is primarily 9th and 10th grade, some 11th graders. We focused on instructional design, making contact with parents, answering their questions, trying to find out where are their questions. I think I might know what they are, but we really wanted to find out and see if we had answered those. And of course, distributing those devices to students. And so the first 2 days of school, August 6th and 7th, we pulled off an orientation, and you can see me there. I was a temperature checker, and I had to fill the role as teacher for one of our staff members that was not on campus that day, and Miss Bowyer did the same. And it was a busy day. I'll tell you, I was really nervous and really anxious about the whole procedure and protocol and taking all those temperatures. And I will just want to give a shout out to all the parents that attended. They were phenomenal. They were patient. They waited in line. They didn't complain. They had their mask on. We had some that were waiting outside, and so it was a little bit hot that day, and the longer you wait, your temperature goes up a little bit, that threshold. So they had to go back to their cars, sit for a few minutes in the AC, get back down to normal. And so, and again, everybody was great. And what a great team at JP Knapp, our staff for pulling that off. I was exhausted at the end of the first day, and about in a coma at the end of the second day. And Miss Bowyer, I think she was too, but we pulled it off. And our teachers have said resoundingly that it was worth it, because we felt like students and parents were ready for what was to come next. And so again, just a few things. You can see our students there in mass. Dr. Corbo distributing those devices. We did that in a drive-through method. I guess this girl had to come in and get hers. But again, a great opportunity to meet with our students. This is what our attendance looked like, which I think is just awesome. So as parents came up, we took their temperature. On your desk, I provided a copy of the survey that we gave them, along with a little card, a QR code that took them straight to an online version, if you will, of a program for orientation. So again, they had that information they could refer back to. And man, we packed all that information in there. Everything you might possibly want to know about JP Knapp and going to school. But interesting to me, so the survey, I gave them a little golf pencil so they could fill the survey out while they were waiting in line to get their schedule. And then we just took that data. So some of the things parents said they wanted to know. They wanted a clear, concise learning plan. Make sure teachers are communicating with students, that classes have a regular start and stop time, that we have some interactive sessions. I need to know about my device, that sort of thing. So I felt like we had answered those questions with our orientation plan, so I felt good about that. The second part of that survey, and again, it was an anonymous survey, unless you had a specific question, you could put your name at the end. But I think it helped us get a picture of our student population and what their needs are beyond the world of academics. And again, if it's an outside agency we need to help you get in touch with, or you need some other resources in the community, again, get a feel for what those needs are. So thanks to Sue Boone, our guidance counselor, for helping us put our hands on a survey like that. And again, I think it made an impact for us as far as understanding our students. We also had again, I've already mentioned the 9th grade virtual parent meeting, but we did that with 11th graders as well, because they transitioned to those all COA courses. So we always do that. We felt like we needed to. We had great participation in that one as well. We do senior meetings every summer, so we had put those off because we didn't know what that was going to look like on the COA side. So once we got word from COA what their plans were, we felt like we could hold senior meetings, so we did that. We used a different format than we typically do. We did small groups, and then we broke out to those individual meetings. Again, went over the stuff that we always do, the FAFSA, college applications, your Form 5-year plan. Are you in the COA courses you need? Do you have any questions? Again, getting parents ready for that all-inclusive, eventful senior year. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about this evening so we've started school, and things are going very well. I feel good about where we are, and I feel good about what I understand as a principal, because we've used data to drive our decisions in these last 3 weeks. And so I'm going to get Ms. Bowyer to come up and talk a little bit about the surveys that we've used, and just kind of hit some high spots.
Good evening.
Good
How are you?
evening.
Sorry. So there is a lot of data here, and for that reason, we have previously shared this slideshow with you all so that you can go back and access the data at a later time to look at it all. But I do want to highlight a couple of things. So we have actually surveyed our teachers at the end of each week, and of course we finished week 3 last week. We have changed the questions a little bit. We're keeping some that are the same each week, so that we did have a baseline for essentially how our teachers were feeling and doing and what they needed. Once we got a better idea of how things were going, we went ahead and made our PD plan, so what we're doing on our Friday PD. So then we asked for feedback about where they felt they needed help in technology and instruction. Those will be our 2 focuses while we're in remote learning. And also we asked where they felt they were the experts in those areas where the PDs could be teacher-led. So this is the teacher feedback, just really quickly, week 1, 2, and 3. The top down is 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Overall rating their how they felt on a scale of 1 to 5. How would you rate the week overall? And so you can see where, and again, with us having such a small staff, the numbers that you see, the smaller numbers, generally represent 1 response, or the 12.5 would be 2. So at the end of week 2, we added the question, where are you finding the most challenges? And what we found from our teachers, the most was responding to emails and other correspondence. They found that to be a challenge to keep up with that. But again, when we're in that remote virtual type of learning environment, that's the only way we can communicate. So of course that has increased a lot since the spring. Additionally, they felt that technology was a struggle, as well as we're just as educators in general, we're always worried about meeting our students' needs. So those were the top 3 challenges. We also asked how many hours they were spending outside of school. So there, about 43% said 10 or more. And then you'll find that most of the others were in that 1 to 2 or 3 to 4. And then, of course, actually the 14% is a 7 to 8 category. And we intend to revisit that particular question at the end of our week 4 survey to see, hopefully, if that is improved. So there are several slides. Each week we've asked for positives. These were optional. And so it's been pretty incredible to see the amount of responses we've had from our teachers. A few that I'll just really quickly highlight. And again, if you please take some time to access it later, some of them, they'll really lift you up. Even the suggestions are very, very insightful and helpful for us. All of my students are logging on to the Google Meets, minus the few bumps that we had at the beginning of the week. The majority of the students are turning in their assignments. So the teachers at the end of week 1 were already feeling lots of positive things happening. Interacting with students is awesome. Most are attending synchronous learning and submitting assignments. Lots of positive comments from students concerning their lessons. So there's a lot of comments in there about synchronous learning. The very bottom comment on this slide, technology help from Kathy Blades and Ryan Owens, and I would like to say that our technology department has really gone above and beyond, and I know they're a small department trying to meet the needs of all of us, and so it's been really appreciated. And there have been lots of times that we've needed their help, whether it's help desk or actually coming to the school. And so that was, I shared that with him, and later Ryan was like, hey, thanks. And I said, that wasn't my comment. Like, I think you're great too. But because they're generally there to help us out whenever we need it. But that came from a teacher, so I felt like to end your Friday, you needed to see this comment. There was another comment that said, I witnessed lots of educators pulling together and helping one another through this challenging time. The overall online attendance for my classes, I felt was great. And so again, there's more positive comments from week 2. Participation is high. Kids are responding well to virtual classrooms. And then there's week 3. Attendance overall is great. And I think our teachers really found that from the beginning. They were very excited to find how engaged our students were with the remote learning environment. And we feel like that has a lot to do with a lot of different things, but very quickly we'll hit on in just a second some of the feedback from our students and parents, and I feel confident that has a lot to do with the learning design that we created over the summer to roll out. And that was one thing we really stressed during orientation, is that what you will see looks very different than the spring. Mrs. Fallon, do you want to
go back?
No, if you could just go forward for me.
Okay.
Please, sorry. And then, of course, we asked what they've learned from our teachers, and I thought there were some pretty compelling responses. I've learned that even when students are not sitting right in front of me, they can still be monitored and advised online just as easily as if they were here. Another important point that we reflected on during our professional development, I've learned that students take much, much longer to process and apply content during remote learning. So providing notes and shorter assignments than I anticipated allows students the processing time that they need. So in addition to just becoming more familiar with technology and how to roll these things out, we're having to really look at instruction differently to still meet those end goals, that backward design. What do we want our students to know and learn when we're done, and then figuring out the best ways to get that across or help our students engage in learning that through the remote learning environment. And then, of course, each week we always ask our teachers about concerns or areas of improvement. And overall, what we've seen is technology. Some of that comes with the hiccups that are going to be, natural and happen in any environment, especially with the demand that's increased with the remote learning. Some of it is a learning curve for ourselves, for our educators to become more familiar with it. And we've seen comments like that as well, that as they start to feel more comfortable using Google Classroom, for example, they've had much more positive comments. Adjusting to taking attendance, because we didn't do that in the spring. And then just overall balancing that planning piece, the instructional piece, and the processing time for our students. And additionally, of course, again, lots of concern for our 9th graders, just because for our staff, they feel like they haven't got the same, not necessarily feel or welcome, because we've done as much as we possibly could based on the environment that we're in, but they can't wait to have them on campus because they want them to really see and feel what it's like to be a Spartan. And we're doing the best that we can remotely for that. And then, of course, there's always concern making sure that we're doing enough interventions and support. And so we already had our MTSS pyramid, our intervention pyramid, and we went back and looked at how does that look more in the remote learning environment. And Ms. Fallon, can you just very quickly, and I can share too, what we've asked of our students was how important they felt those different components were that we were rolling out in our new lesson design. I have to get back to the original.
Thank you.
Sorry. And there really is a lot of information, and I know that we're have to be conscious of time, so I'm just going to very quickly point out some of the things that we asked about, and then you'll have time later to go back through and look through more carefully at some of the data. So for the students, we put out 2 surveys. One was if students had all JPK classes or if they had a combination of, so whether it was NCVPS, APEX, or even if you had some COA and some JPK courses. And then one was completely, the second version was just for our kids that had all COA courses. So we did ask our students questions of demographics and whether they attended orientation. We also asked about their overall well-being during remote learning. So we've used the survey because it was open from August the 21st until the 1st of September, and we have a schedule where we plan to put one out about every 2.5 weeks. But we use that data as the students continue to respond, and as well as parents. If we felt some responses were concerning in nature, or we had that place at the end for students to leave their information for us. If it said, if you need help or support, please give us your information. And then we contacted them from there. So we spent a lot of time last week making those contacts, in addition to just checking on grades and making sure that our students have the support that they felt that they needed. So the survey's been a great way to get responses in general, but also very specifically as well from our students and our parents. So some of the questions we asked were about the individual components of the remote learning experience, things like the routine daily schedule, the synchronous learning, using Google Meet or Google Classroom rather, and overwhelmingly, most of them are in the 80 and 90% on very important to extremely important. And we found the same thing within our parent surveys. And then we also asked, of those same components, were they seeing them in their classrooms? Because again, we're trying to do what we can to sit in and meet with our teachers, and we've joined a couple of the Google Classrooms so we can go in some of the Google Meets. And we were very pleased with the information that was shared. And of course, we asked, again, it was optional, but for our students and our parents to provide both positive comments and suggestions or concerns that they had, areas for improvement. And we received a lot of feedback in those particular areas as well. I think the students especially, they always can surprise you with things that you weren't necessarily thinking about, or again, we would share this information with staff either to reflect on how can we improve and make this a better experience for our students and parents, and then in some cases, again, it works for seeing really how positively the experience is going overall.
And so I just want to finish up with our next steps will be, again, that MTSS pyramid and those interventions. So we're pulling a few kids one-on-one with a teacher, or maybe some services with Ms. Boone, our guidance counselor. Just depends on what the situation is. I think we've got 6 maybe or 7 that we're kind of looking at some additional plans for at this point. Also, we're hearing from our students that they miss our clubs. And so that's our focus this week. Our staff's getting their plans together on, okay, what are we going to do about clubs in this remote world? And I'll tell you that my staff is really thinking outside the box, and I'm excited about that. So thank you for your time. Like I said, it's been a busy time at JP Knapp.
Thank you very much for all that you do. Yeah. I love how y'all work as a team. I mean, just, your strengths and how you pull from each other, and y'all do an outstanding job. And it shows with the survey. Thank you.
I like how you made it a point to still do some face-to-face within the parameters set by the governor, and I'm sure the students benefited from that. And did I see up there we have 86 freshmen at JP Knapp?
85.
85.
Yes, ma'am, 85.
Thank you. All right. I am going to jump in here. I probably should wait until the end of the meeting, but I'm going to jump in here and say a few words about Dr. Lutz. Well, I guess I better open it up. That I move to appoint Dr. Matt Lutz as our superintendent of Currituck County Schools through June 30th, 2023, under the contract terms that the board reviewed in our closed session on Monday. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I'd like to have some discussion.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, Dr. Lutz, I'm very impressed with your communication. And many times in your previous capacity, I've appreciated your input and your way of cutting through and getting to the information.
Thank you.
However, I'm disappointed not with you, but with us as a board, once again, following procedure and policy for anybody that works within the system. We have policies set forward, and we consistently go outside and do not adhere to them. We have hiring policies. We did meet and discuss a contract. This is not the contract that we agreed upon when I left that room. We did not follow the rules that we have set forth. And so for that, I'm not going to vote in favor of hiring Dr. Lutz because we didn't adhere to the policy and we didn't follow the rules. And we got to be fair in this system to everyone. So if we don't follow the rules for the person at the top and we don't follow the rules, we make them up as we go along. Now, I believe Dr. Lutz is a good person and a strong leader. But this is not the contract, in addition, that we left that room and we agreed upon. So that's that.
What was added to or omitted in the contract that we received today?
Yes.
Well, first of all, the contract had already been negotiated before we got in that room with Dr. Lutz, before I was even asked
We're talking
about
about
it.
Monday. The
Okay, and then when I
meeting
left
this
the
past
room,
Monday.
okay, yes, ma'am. So the first problem was we were going to have an interview process. And we jumped that. We changed the timeline, and we jumped the interview process after we had 23 applicants, which we have a policy that we're going to go through and follow, but we didn't do that. So then we get into the meeting, and I find out that the contract had already been negotiated back and forth before I was even made privy as to what the potential terms were. Then I realized we were paying more for this contract than the previous contract. Then I agreed to a number that I still thought was excessive, but then there was some terms. So to answer your question, Bill, the part that was changed was under unilateral termination by the board. Okay, termination, you can do it through cause, but the level of bar is so high in this particular document, and the way the state general statute reads, that's 115C-274, that you can't meet that. So then it says if you want to go ahead and just do a buyout, essentially, the terms are if you want to just, you don't have a good working relationship any further, the system is not heading in the correct direction, the majority of the board wants an out, you have to buy out 12 months. 12 months. Okay, we just faced that with the last superintendent. All right? And so I was cautious, not wanting to truck down the same path. Nothing against Dr. Lutz. I just have to negotiate on the best end of the school system. So it still says 12 months. So if we have a problem, we have a disagreement, we got to pay out 12 months at $155,000 for a buyout. It's a lot of money. So for that, we had changed it to 9 months, tried to get some compromise, and that's not what the document says again today. So we jumped the policy. We didn't adhere to the interview a policy that we had set forward.
It's on his desk. Well, you're looking at the one that Yvette furnished
I had this
tonight.
one when I walked in there.
No, the one that Yvette just put on your desk here.
The one
at
she-
this meeting.
At the work session.
No, it's right here, the one that was here when you sat down tonight.
Ma'am,
I did not get one when I sat down.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay.
I grabbed the one from the
Okay,
work
well,
session,
all
and I
right.
got the one I had
Okay.
the meeting
All right.
before, and they say the
Okay.
same thing.
Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Will you just clarify?
yes. The one that I have has made those revisions to 9 months on page 8. This is the
I
one
don't
that,
have it.
this is the one that supersedes it with the things that we discussed Monday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is the one that will be in effect with the change for the 9 months.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I'm
The
sorry
one
you
that I
didn't-
have laying on the work session,
Right.
just over
This one-
across the street.
Yeah, that was the one that did not make that change, but this one is the one that would be in effect.
Where is that over here at my desk?
Well, it was, okay, all right.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All I'm saying is I came into the last meeting
Pass
with
that.
this face down. This is the one I was given, and
Okay.
it didn't have a change in it.
All right, well, the
And it-
change, okay, the change, just so the public knows, that change had been made to 9 months, and that's the contract that will be presented to Dr. Lutz. Ms. Rose, do you have any comments?
I think Dr. Lutz has jumped into a frying pan in the middle of a pandemic, and I know he's done a stellar job of keeping us informed. And, while there may be some concerns with the procedure and how it went about, that's no reflection upon Dr. Lutz. He has done everything that I've asked him to do. He's given me any information I've asked for, and I will support Dr. Lutz.
Thank you. Just want to give you a brief bio of Dr. Lutz. He brings 25 years' experience in public education, of which more than 17 years have been spent in administrative roles. Dr. Lutz earned both his BA degree in history and his MA in secondary education. He then completed his doctorate in educational leadership through Ashland University in 2006. As a high school teacher, history teacher, Dr. Lutz understood the important role a teacher plays in serving as a positive role model for students. He further capitalized on his ability to positively impact students when he assumed coaching roles in basketball during his time as a teacher and administrator. In addition to his experiences in school leadership, Dr. Lutz has served as an advocate for public education at the state level. From 2012 to 2015, Dr. Lutz served as the Director of Equity and Talent for the Ohio Department of Education. During his tenure at the state level, Dr. Lutz championed student growth and educator effectiveness. For the past 5 years, Dr. Lutz has served in administrative roles for Currituck County Schools. He served as principal at Shawboro Elementary School and Currituck County Middle School prior to transitioning into the role of our assistant superintendent in the fall of 2017. Dr. Lutz and his wife, Carrie, returned to the Outer Banks with their 3 children, Maddie, a senior at UNCW, Callahan, 17, and Alex, 13, in 2015. He is honored to be chosen as superintendent and looks forward to serving the students. We have a first, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Me, aye.
Motion carries. I would like to welcome Dr. Lutz as our new superintendent for Currituck County Schools.
Thank you.
And we have tonight Ray Matusko that would like to swear Dr. Lutz in at this time, and his family, I believe, is here, his wife and children, if they would like to come forward. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Barry.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Callahan.
No.
I remember Callahan.
So if you want to, first of all, I want to thank the school board for inviting me out to administer the oath of office. It's always an honor to do this, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right. Dr. Matthew Lutz, do you solemnly swear that you'll support the Constitution of the United States and that you'll be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of your knowledge and ability, so help you God.
I will.
And do you, Dr. Matthew Lutz, solemnly swear that you'll perform the duties of the office of Superintendent of the Currituck County Schools in Currituck County, North Carolina, to the best of your knowledge, skill, and ability, so help you God?
I will.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it, as always. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Matt.
Congratulations, Dr. Lutz.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to jump right back in. Recognition of school nutrition staff.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to take just a
We don't
minute.
give you any time. We don't give you any time to breathe.
All right. Well, we're so excited to recognize our food, nutrition, and our transportation department for their incredible work during the spring, starting on March 13th onward, and continuing to this day. But they certainly went above and beyond under the fine leadership of Angela Rodriguez. So if you would come up, Angela. She is our school nutrition director extraordinaire who takes her job very seriously and passionately cares about our kids and our district. We have Larry Nelson, the lead manager for our Knott's Island site. Thank you, Larry. Tammy Goins, lead manager for the North site. Jane Rivers and Terry Davis, lead managers for the South site. And our leader in transportation throughout the time period, Jessica Brick. We cannot thank you enough for the service that you provided for our kids through a very difficult time. You put yourself out on the front line when we really were not sure what we were into, and you continued to feed our kids and take care of our kids and make sure our families were taken care of. So, Angela, I'd like to turn it over to you for a moment.
I just want to personally thank each one of them for putting up with my many texts, my many phone calls, my manic depression states, my crazy states. But Jessica was a key factor in a lot of this. She's a silent partner that a lot of people never really hear about Jessica. She's real quiet in the office. But all I'd have to do is text and say, I need some extra hands, and she would deploy her crew to wherever we needed. Jessica, I'm not sure what the bus driver, do we have somebody for this one? She would deploy somebody out there. You're welcome. But these four here took a lot, not just the work, but for me, because my stress level was here. And then Terry would call and she'd say, it's okay, boss lady, we got it. Miss Jane would call, oh, you know what you're doing. Tammy would be, we got this. And Larry would be like, what are you so excited for? So it's humbling to know that we're a dysfunctional family. We're not perfect. But in order for us to function, we care about what we do. And to know that the community has backed us 110%, the board has backed us 110%, our former superintendent backed us, it was very humbling to know that we're still in a chaotic stage right now. Big changes are coming, but throughout it all, they're continually, we got this. I just had a big conference call this afternoon with some big news, and they're like, we got this. That's right. So we call ourselves Gumby. We're very flexible. Whatever you need. So, but thank you all for your support.
Thank you so much. Y'all went above and beyond. I mean, I heard such positive things.
They absolutely did. I visited each one of the sites, and there was just so much work going on, and y'all were just doing everything you could do to make it easier for the bus drivers and for the kids, and we really appreciate it.
Yes. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Public comment session. Individuals or groups will be called in order in which they signed up and will be asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Tonight we've had 3 individuals sign up, and then we have Dr. Robinson. He has recorded his comments, and we will play those tonight as well. First, we have Jonathan Briggs. Jonathan, come on up and state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Briggs. I reside at 902 South Mills Road in Moyock. I have some prepared remarks, but I'm going to deviate from them a little bit because I don't know that all of them are necessary. Good evening to the members of the Currituck Board of Education. Thank you for your time. I have 4 children in the Currituck County school system, a 7th grader, a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, and a brand new kindergarten student. They currently attend Moyock Elementary and Moyock Middle School. My wife, Colleen, and I regularly brag on the schools in our county to people considering a move to the area. We have been here for 15 years, and all of our children's education has taken place in Currituck. Our children take their health for granted. Other than normal sickness, the vast majority of children will never see an inpatient visit to the hospital. My 3 oldest students are excellent students. I think my kindergartner will be as well. We certainly miss the in-person portion of school. My wife is an educator in Chesapeake, so I'm very well aware of the struggles that go on, the amount of time that is spent. She currently works her normal virtual hours and until it's bedtime. It's a struggle right now. It's very hard, very perilous times. That being said, my kids are struggling for different reasons that make them unique. My oldest child has always been a very strong student. He excels. He enjoys the competition. His passion for learning, I feel like, is waning. We stay on him constantly, but the excitement of being in the classroom and the back and forth and the trading of ideas just isn't there. My 10-year-old is an emotional wreck. She enjoys school, but she's a student that needs collaboration. Teachers throughout the years, there's a huge emphasis that I see on collaboration, students working together in groups, and that simply isn't taking place in the virtual environment. I hope that it can or it will, but it's certainly missing. My 8-year-old, she just told me that she misses challenges. She misses things that she really has to work for. The virtual environment just doesn't seem to give that to her. They're not getting their gifted pull-out time. So she misses that. And my kindergartner is missing her time with Mrs. Riddick, who we love so much because she's taught all our kids, and she's just a very special person.
Yes, she is.
I'm just afraid that we're letting some of the most important times in our children's lives slip away. The magic just doesn't happen in the virtual environment. Our children have been trained to collaborate in school. I believe that most of the cementing of ideas in the elementary setting takes place in small groups. This is not like college where you sit through a lecture and then learn your ideas in the library by yourself. Other school systems with much larger enrollments are working toward a return to in-person learning, and I hope that we can do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. Appreciate your comments. Next, we have Mr. Robert Griffin. Couldn't see out there. The podium was in the way.
You can see the glare.
Oh.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
Dr. Lutz, congratulations. I'm going to circle back at the end of my remarks as far as that goes. Just want to take you back on a couple of things in timeline from the minutes of your board meetings. May the 7th of 2020 in your minutes, it says a timeline for the superintendent search was provided by the district's HR director, Ann Mackin. Janet Rose asked that the timeline be adjusted in order to have the new superintendent in place by July the 31st. The board discussed and approved the combining of the process to adjust that timeline. And that was unanimously approved by this board. Then on June the 25th of 2020, the minutes, there was an informational item about the superintendent search. Chairman Etheridge reported that the district had received numerous superintendent applications. The timeline for selection and hiring has been updated, and it will be sent out to the board members, which I'm sure that it was. Public's not aware of that, but I'm sure that that happened. And so I just wanted to say, Dr. Lutz, I congratulate you for being the best of those numerous candidates that were received. I know from the experience I have had with you over the last couple of months that you are a hard worker, as has been referenced earlier, and I'm sure you're going to do a fine job as our superintendent. So I congratulate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Next, we have Stephen Kinsler.
I have 6 stitches in the bottom of my foot.
Oh, my goodness.
Hello, my name is Stephen Kinsler. I reside at 340 Greenview Road in Moyock. And I just prepared my statement to make it easier for me. I'm here today on behalf of my first grader, Tristan, who attends Moyock Elementary in Ms. Whitesample's class. She's an excellent teacher, and I'm glad he has been placed in her class. Tristan has an IEP and receives special education from Ms. Popovich for social emotional skills and reading and writing. He also receives speech therapy once a week from Ms. Giordano. Tristan is a very active boy, and everyone who interacts with him loves his outgoing personality and charm. But he struggles with impulse control, which results in constant movement, loud talking, interrupting, and no attention span. You might be thinking that's how first grade boys behave, but I can assure you that Tristan is exceptional, as evidenced by the comparisons seen in his peers who patiently sit at their computers and listen to the teacher. He can't read or write, despite my wife and I making our best effort to read with him on a regular basis. He is beginning to read basic sight words in kindergarten before the pandemic began, and he could easily write his first name when he was still learning in person. However, Tristan has forgotten how to write his name. He can only remember a few basic sight words. Let's not forget that he learned these sight words and how to spell his name with in-person learning in kindergarten last year. Since being at home where everything is a distraction, Tristan cannot stay focused enough to learn alongside his virtual peers, and he will not watch a pre-recorded lesson despite the many attempts to sit and watch with him. My wife has over 8 years of homeschooling experience with our oldest child, so the willingness and ability to teach is not the issue. Tristan just does better in a classroom setting, which in and of itself creates routine and structure and provides role models by interacting with his fellow students with higher maturity levels. So unfortunately, Tristan is not retaining the material being taught due to the nature of the virtual classroom setting. The virtual online school is not a conducive learning environment for exceptional children with an IEP. Not only are the computers unreliable regarding Wi-Fi connectivity, but also the quality of the call sometimes drops to a level so degraded that the signal becomes full of static and the teacher's voice becomes a staggered echo. Of course, Tristan finds this hilarious and mimics the echoing sounds, completely breaking any concentration he may have had. This interruption usually requires a computer restart, which takes up to 5 minutes, but by that point his focus is no longer on the classroom. The best virtual experience Tristan has had thus far is one-on-one instruction for his special education in kindergarten at the start of the pandemic last year. This year, most of the time, the special education class includes 3 to 4 students, but Ms. Popovich recognizes Tristan's learning disability and gives him the extra attention needed to accomplish his objectives. So we all feel sorry for these little ones, especially the kindergartners who have never stepped foot in a classroom to learn what the first day of school feels like, meeting, interacting with the teacher in person. So now is the time to act on the options that are right for our children. I'd like the Board of Education to consider the following. Voting in favor of an option that allows the return of in-person school for grades K through 3, as these are the formative years in a child's education. And if that's not possible for all students in K through 3 to return to school, then please vote in favor of the option to allow those children with an IEP to return to in-person training, learning. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Kinsler.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Jones, would you like to play Dr. Robinson's comments?
I'm Dan Robinson. I'm a pediatrician at Coastal Pediatrics. I am also a member of the CHKD work group assisting schools, both public and private, from Williamsburg down to northeastern North Carolina in their reopening plans. I'm also a father of 3 students in Currituck County and married to a teacher in Currituck County. The CDC, American Academy of Pediatrics, State of North Carolina have all issued guidelines for schools reopening, and while there are subtle differences between them, the main points are essentially the same. The understanding is that kids do better in school. Kids should return to school if we can do it safely. So, number one, masks. Science is clear. There's very little we have that is more effective in decreasing the spread of the virus than face coverings. This should be non-negotiable, mandatory, with very few exceptions. The exceptions are children under the age of 2, anyone with significant developmental conditions preventing them from being able to tolerate a mask on their face or able to remove it on their own, and lastly, anyone with severe respiratory disease, such as severe persistent asthma, in which case those persons should probably reconsider returning to the school environment and instead pursuing education online. Mild, intermittent, or moderate persistent asthma are not conditions that will prevent someone from wearing a mask. Number 2, cleaning. We do know that the virus can stay on surfaces for days, so following the CDC guideline for appropriate deep cleaning is necessary. Also enforcing appropriate hand washing and sanitizing for students frequently is going to be significant in terms of minimizing any possible spread of the virus. Number 3, distancing. The consensus is that the virus is droplet spread, so physical distancing of 6 feet is a necessity. Number 4, family involvement. This is probably the most important. Families need to understand that they cannot send their children to school sick or if they've been exposed to the virus. Kids, we now know, are very good vectors. They do have high viral loads, and they spread the virus fairly effectively. So kids can spread it before they ever develop symptoms or even despite never developing symptoms. If families are unable to do this, we should expect that there are going to be exposures in school. Anyone who is uncomfortable either teaching or sending their kids to school in this environment should have an online option available. I can tell you we've been seeing it in the office for over 2 months in all age groups, kids, teenagers down to infants. It is in the community, it is spread community. Currituck County has very limited testing. There is testing done at the health department under limited hours. Many families seek health care outside of Currituck County, especially in Virginia, and there is no cross-state mandate for virus reporting. So it is likely that our positives are significantly higher than what's being reported because states don't talk to each other. If we're not able to handle all of these steps appropriately, we should expect or anticipate that there will be outbreaks in our schools. I'm more than happy to discuss this further with the school board, superintendent, or any of the staff as necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And thank you for those that took the time out of your schedule to be here tonight. We appreciate your concerns and your comments.
And those who have written us as well and
Yes.
called us on the telephone, we do appreciate hearing from you.
Yes. All right, Dr. Matt Lutz, student enrollment and virtual learning update.
As we know, we've been looking at our student enrollment numbers along with the growth, especially in the northern end of the county. You do not have information in your packs because I wanted the most absolute up-to-date information. And so I wanted to start with a comparison of our enrollment, our entire school, our district enrollment. On 9/3/2019, we were at 4,301. The same 9/3/2020, we're at 4,279. Now, you should, Ms. Jones, did you
I don't have this.
Did you get that?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yes.
Did everybody get
Yes.
this one? Okay. All right. We also have been tracking our students and who's. Don't have it.
I think we did have it.
Yeah.
Is it this?
Yes.
Here it comes. This one? Yeah.
Yeah.
This one.
I have it, I just can't put my hands on it. No, I don't have it.
Again, to me, enrollment numbers at this time of the year, when you're giving numbers and updates and so on, it's rather fluid because we have to make sure that the students are actually enrolled. It moves a great deal in August and September, so that's why the delay on any numbers, and especially given the current state we are with our pandemic and having moving our district to online. I wanted to be up to date. So what we have gathered, that we've had 95 students as of the 1st of September that have moved to homeschool when they left. We've had 15 go to Jarvisburg Christian Academy and 15 to other private Christian schools. And we've also had 5 go to NC Virtual and Penn Foster, and another 6 go to NEAT. So, and again, you don't ever want to, I wouldn't want to speak for families, but what I can ascertain from this information is that many of the families said that have withdrawn and said homeschool, said they're coming back when we return to in-person learning. And I can't speak for the privates and the Christian schools, but those numbers are higher than we've had. They may or may not stay, but those families have chosen to go elsewhere. So from this information, I think we can conjecture that we would add another 100 students to our rolls from the previous year. Our numbers are very similar, but we are continuing to, if we were under normal circumstances, be going up in our enrollment, which is not a surprise. We are in planning for that. We did get some great news from the state, in that yesterday when they passed a bill, they held school districts harmless on their ADM funding formula for this year, which means that our projected ADM, which is average daily
membership.
Thank you. That's what the state funds us on that, and we're getting extra funds this year because we are going up and they projected us as up. So that all in all is a positive. Questions?
So you're saying we would likely have 100 more students than last year?
Yes, sir.
And that means we better do something about all these overcrowded schools real quick.
What date do they determine as to the money? Like, I know you said they're going to hold us harmless, so we will at least get for 4301 students.
We're going to get our projected enrollment, which was actually higher than the
Okay.
Yep, and I don't have that number in front of me.
Okay.
But we'll actually, do you remember?
4332.
Okay.
She had it. So, and if we would happen to go higher, which it doesn't look like we are, we would have gotten that as well. So it's actually as good a situation as we could hope for. There was a lot of good lobbying going on for public schools' behalf to ensure that we were held harmless this year. We're doing quite well compared to other counties and in other discussions with students unenrolling in different things. So we're doing pretty well. When I hear some of the other districts talk, I feel very proud of what our staff has done and what our community and families have been doing.
Under a normal year, when does it typically level out, like the enroll increase or decrease? Does it start to shake out at a certain point?
It usually does, although we could almost call it the Moyock phenomena, that last year we kept adding about 10 a month, it seemed like, at Moyock Elementary for.
But is it like the 10th day or?
It used to be the 10-day report.
Yeah. Now it's not.
It's normally the 10-day report for no-shows, but then people enroll all the time. On that
I realize that. I was just saying, I think other than the increase in Moyock, that obviously we're seeing a lot more of that. But overall, the district is going to start to level out to a degree. I mean, obviously people move and come all the time, but I'm saying at some point you're not going to see a rise and fall to the degree you would at the beginning of the year. And I was just curious as to where that might usually be.
Normally at the end of September, and after the end of September, which you generally find, Mr. Craddock, is you'll find on normal circumstances, the number of in equals the number out, generally speaking.
Then a little change at Christmas. And
yes.
Sometimes spring break.
Yep. There's different high points, but overall, you can pretty much bank on that being fairly steady.
But we still got a few weeks to
Yes.
see.
Yes. We also started school earlier this year, which added just one more twist, and with Labor Day coming late on top of that, I am anxious to see what occurs next week. Sometimes you'll have an influx in and an influx out after Labor Day. But again, this is not a normal year.
No, it's not. Thank you, Dr. Lutz.
As far as our virtual learning update, and I know and I appreciate the community coming out and sharing your thoughts, we look forward to getting our students back to school as soon as we can. To that end, I want to give an update that in terms of our staff members, we have 16 teleworking right now that are high-risk health issues. and we also, so we're tracking that, and we've also had at least one positive test in school started from a staff member with 2 pending. Just wanted to give you those updates. Can't share the names and so on, but I wanted you to be aware. Things that we will be prepared to discuss in much greater detail over the next few weeks and at the next board meeting, looking at how we can bring kids back to school, what that looks like, K-12, K-5, we heard the suggestion, K-3, understanding, making sure that we understand what that looks under the current restrictions put on by the governor in terms of a hybrid model and what that means with dual teaching, with both virtual learning and in-person. We're going to ensure that our facilities are up and ready to go. That's going to fall under Virginia Arrington and Matt Mullins, and clarifying across the board with transportation, and also identifying if students can be driven to school. In our area as well, Edenton has gone back to school with their K-5. They just went back this week. They, along with Elizabeth City, is allowing certain groups of kids to come back, but I am going to do some further investigation of what that looks like. Is that in for an hour, or is that in for all day? But ultimately, we want to try to create the most sense of normal that we can. And I commend JP Knapp for gathering some great data. I want to highlight when we said we're trying to create some sense of normalcy. For the parent that has the kindergartner,
Hidden by he's still here.
I get it. We get it, and we're going to look at all these things and how we can meet those mandates that we've been given, and get our kids back when we can.
Well, could we have a special meeting or some kind of work session prior to the October meeting to see if we couldn't get, even if we have to get a committee made up of parents, can we do something so that we're not all the way into October before we're figuring out if we can deal with IEPs? Can we do something to, another piece of data that I've been hearing about other than what they presented was the workload. I mean, we heard from this one individual, his wife's a teacher. I've had teachers call me. They're talking about how much extra, almost twice as much work is what a lot of them have been describing to me. So as much as I want my kids, and I'll tell you, I didn't think my kids wanted to wear a mask and go to school. I wasn't in favor of that. Okay? I got a 4th grader, and he says, "Hey, Dad, I really got to get back to school. I can't hear the teacher with the other kids." And he says, "How?" I said, "Well, he hadn't worn a mask all year. He's been home on the farm, and we didn't go anywhere." And he said, "I'd rather wear a mask even if I was 1 of 5 or one alone with the teacher." That's what my 4th grader's telling me. My high schoolers saying the same thing. We got to figure out a way.
I would like to see us start with some part of our population, whether I've heard from kindergarten teachers begging to get their kids. It's not working virtually for kindergarten. I know our teachers are working hard. I know they're exhausted. I know our parents are working hard. They're trying to make it work. But it is, when you've got 3 kids, 4 kids, and everybody's online at the same time, it's not working. It's just not. And to wait for the October meeting, that's when the 9 weeks ends. If we could do pre-K, kindergarten first, special ed, something, if it, I know high school's going to be the challenge because they do not encourage kids mixing, and we're certainly going to mix if we have, high school's going to be a challenge, but I think we need to definitely maybe have another meeting next week, but until we get it, start with this group this week, and the following week start with another grade level, but I think we got to get them back in. I do.
Well, and then if there are people that have health conditions or their families are not comfortable with that, or their children or what have you, then we need to have an option available for them. And I know it's convoluted and it's easy to talk about and hard to do.
Even,
We're
I
going to
think
see a
we're gonna have to
lot
offer
of
virtual all year, aren't
consequences
we,
as a
Matt?
result of this.
All year?
Well, at least until the governor releases some of his virtual.
The current structure that we're required to work under, requires 50% or less in
Right.
the buildings and in classrooms. So we run into issues with space and employees.
Well, why don't we see how many people would take advantage of going and how many people would opt out and see if there's some kind of way that we could come up with something.
Is it 50% of the whole school system population? Because like I know Edenton is doing K-5.
They spread out across their building, but they're also significantly smaller than we are.
Right.
And Perquimans went back under B. Again, both are, I think, close to 1,700 students or less, and we're 4,300. So
Well,
the dynamics are different.
We can do something. I know we can't bring everybody back. The governor's not going to let us do that until, when does he talk again? It's soon. It's coming up.
2.75.
I'm telling you, you call that number. I want you to call that number and see what he says, because I've already tried twice and I get the same recording. But
Yeah, I think we all have the same common goal. I mean, we all want our kids back in school.
but we need to move forward.
We are, and we've,
Virginia Beach is taking theirs back on the, I believe it's the 28th of September.
we've got a different governor
They got
than Virginia.
a 1.2% infection
But
rate.
our governor did
We got
say
a
we can do something.
0.3% in
Right,
Currituck County.
right.
0.3, not even 1%. We got to do better.
Yeah, I think we have that in common. We want to get back. I get it.
We
I
gotta
was
get
talking
at least
to
the IEP
excuse
and
me,
the special
Mr.
needs
Currituck.
have to
Excuse
be
me.
met.
I was speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
We need to get back, to school. We're doing everything we can to see if we can make that possible. I watch my grandkids. I had my grandson. He's in first grade last Friday, and I sat there with him, and we were going over things. And my fourth grade granddaughter, she does okay. She gets it. But first grade, I can see kindergarten, first grade, second, how difficult it is to stay online and stay on a computer, and they want to see their friends. They want to see their teacher in person. So just know, I just want the public to know we're working on it, and we've got a great administrators that are working hand in hand with each other. Dr. Lutz is going above and beyond to try to see what he can implement and put in place. So I hope you all know that we don't take this lightly, and we hear you, and we're right there with you.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we bring our K1 and 2 students back to school no later than September 21st.
2 weeks.
I want you to amend it to go K through 5.
I don't think that's possible with the governor's mandates
Well,
and the building size.
Okay, we've got a motion. I like your suggestion of let's get together. We have to listen to the experts.
Yes, ma'am.
We have to listen to those that are in the trenches. We see a lot of things, we hear a lot of things, and we want it to happen, but implementing that is a different story.
Well, I know Dr. Lutz it's been in his mind.
Sure.
I've heard him, he
Yeah.
said that.
But we don't have, we don't have anything
What
where,
kind of time frame would we need with you working with the principals for us to try to put something in place for K1 and special ed?
So again, in kind of crafting that out, and I don't want to I do not want to underpromise, to overpromise and underdeliver. I can assure you that we're going to be working on different routes for different groups, but they're also, is it K-12? Is it K-5? Is it K-2? Is it K-3? And then what is most practical? So it's not something that you can just turn around on I'm not comfortable saying we could turn that around on a 2-week notice given the expanse of our county, but it's certainly, that is the top priority starting on September 8th. I've already informed our team. I've already started those conversations that we are going, I need to do further. I need to go into this further before I can say here's a target date. There's a reason why some other school districts who had that ambitious date about 3 weeks after school pulled off of it already. I do want to say.
Public, why? Because I don't know if the public realizes that this isn't just an easy task to implement, because you get into transportation, you get into your teachers that the social distancing.
It's not going to be easy. I know that.
So one of the logistics that we're required to work under are daunting, including when someone gets a positive COVID test, and then the subsequent what do we call it, quarantining that occurs. There's also, we have 13 teachers out currently because they can't be in the building, and then we also have another group that also could go out, that are high risk, that are choosing to come in, that have said they're not coming in if the kids come back. So these are the logistical things that you have to work through so you can say, is this feasible? Because and I understand that things are not working for all kids. At the same time, if we were to just pull the plug and disrupt the current structure, and we saw that with Knapp, who's been at it, said, we like that structure that we have. I have heard much more of that this week than I heard last week, that we do like the structure. That structure's in place with the idea of bringing kids back.
No,
but,
and I applaud everybody for their hard work, but kids that don't know how to read, and kids that are struggling in reading and math, and kids that have to have special attention and special needs.
IEPs that we're not meeting.
We've got to get them some time. We've got to. We're going to lose people. I mean, I don't know. I understand we can't bring them all back at K through 5 if that's what you're saying, but we got to do something for the kids that can't read and are going into 3rd and 4th grade. I mean, we've got to do something about that.
There's inequities across the county, not just across the state, but, our internet is bad, and we recognize that, and we say, well, it's okay, it's not your fault. But bottom line, they're missing the instruction, and the instruction's ongoing, and, we haven't seen a lot of the children since last March, and we have to be concerned about abuse and neglect, and I think we have to try, and, I would like for us to set a target date to begin. If we can't meet it, we can't meet it, but as Ms. Etheridge just said, let's start having some meetings with us. I know we're working hard. I know our whole school system is working hard.
Well, let's
let's
form a staff, a minister, and community committee and hammer it out. I mean, I'm not saying I got all the answers by any means, but
that component of the input problem, that's not. We had a lot of input on the front end in terms of the different plans. It's the logistical piece that is not going to. It's the logistical component of this that, for me, that is the conundrum of the 50%, the busing, and so on. Now, when we start with smaller groups, or we identify different pieces to say we can take that, we can work through that a lot easier.
Right.
But when we agreed to stay 9 weeks, when we voted to stay out for the first 9 weeks with review, my mind, the review started September 8th. It didn't start, and I had made that promise. But we had to get off the ground and get some structure and order in order then to be responding and then start having these further discussions.
But we did say we would continually look at it.
We are.
And make changes if we needed to.
Absolutely.
And really, I'm not having anybody contact me and say, this is wonderful.
No.
This is wonderful.
We also said excuse me, I apologize. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go on.
But we also said that we would have small groups be able to come into the buildings if they were struggling and they needed support. And I haven't heard of that happening. So we did say that. And that's where I'm not blaming, but time's passing and water's going down the stream, so to speak, and we're not going to get that back.
So this is the 9th day of elementary and middle school instruction. And the reason I want to bring that up is and we have a couple of former elementary teachers here. So right now is part of the time where you're capturing who is struggling and who would need the most help. So that is what's going on at this point in time. Again, we have to gather that first to have a response as well. I know we have other kids that we could have identified earlier, but especially that K-1 world, we wouldn't have known on day one. So this is a bit organic in nature, and the goal is to get our kids back in some way, shape, or form. And I do believe the best way to go about it would be with a smaller group, and you start there and you move forward.
I just think we need to do it sooner rather than later. And I know that, when the vote was taken, it was, I believe, for the first 9 weeks, but that's a fourth of the year. And they lost a fourth of the year last year. That's like half of a year. I just think if at all possible, even if we do K2 and, for 2 weeks and then do 3-5 for 2 weeks or, everybody needs some time. I understand that, but.
Well, will we still be looking at, if we did something like that, the hybrid schedule where we would have, if we did, let's say K3, if we did, they do 2 days on and then another group doing 2 days?
Yeah, and again, we're making the assumption, and I'm just an assumption that a parent would say, okay, my kid goes on Monday, Tuesday, but they're off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They might say, well, you know what? I like this current structure. I made this friend. Our kids are going here. There's other factors in play here. If this isn't, we're going to come back and go 5 days a week if we do whole grade levels.
Yeah.
If we do other models, such as our most at-risk kids, that could look a little different. So that's the level of complexity that is so challenging in trying to work through this, because some parents right now who didn't like it last week, some are saying, you know what, we're figuring this out, and if they only get to come to school for 2 days on 5, they might say, you know what, I'm going to stay with what I have. We don't know that. Those are the questions, and we have a survey that we're going to push out.
We need another survey, because I
coming.
think the 4 times a day online with those that have 3 or 4 children and those that need to work, it's
daunting.
It's worse than difficult. So
Well,
and we need to know, what are we shooting for? We in Currituck have very few cases, and I know Elizabeth City has more cases, and maybe that's why they only did the special population and pre-K. But we have been blessed in Currituck, and yes, we've continually, the whole time, we've had numerous citizens working in Virginia and coming back to sleep in Currituck every night, and we still have not had that large, thank goodness. But I would really like to see our early readers, K2, back in school as soon as possible.
So is there this, you said we're going to do another survey. Is this survey going to ask of parents, if we go back to school, are you going to keep your child home on virtual, or are you going to send them back to school? Because I see that other situation with that is if we send them back and we have it all together and everything's good, and then those that said they want to stay home are going to send theirs back, and then we've got kids that we've got an overcrowded classroom we can't do, so they're going to be with a different teacher.
Well, in other systems that did surveys like that, they had to sign a piece of paper and say, I'm doing that the whole semester virtually, and that's it.
Right.
And that's how they plan.
That's how you do that. You have to. They have to have a commitment.
Yeah, they have to commit.
They can't toggle back and forth.
I just think our children would better be served in the classroom, if at all possible, as quickly as possible.
The other part to that too is the staff as well, and so that all of that has to be taken into account survey wise, and what that feedback looks like. And so that you all can make the best decision possible in a time where there is no best decision.
Yeah, I know it's going to be difficult, and we will need to make adjustments for staff that has special needs as well and can't be in the classroom. But, right now we really don't know what that exactly looks like. So I hate for us to say, because some said they're not coming back, well,
we're in a better place to capture that information now than we were under the speed timeline of an August 10th start date for teachers back. Yeah. So I think I feel that we can gather that information, find it more reliable, because people can respond better to what we're currently working in, and I think we can use that information to make decisions better than when we surveyed people on the first week of July.
So I'd like to see that survey done as soon as possible and then us meet, because I think until we have that information, there's not going to be a lot of reason for us to meet and try to hammer it out.
Plan is that survey is going to go out next week, and we'll put a deadline on it, and we will update you as quickly as possible.
See the survey prior to it going out, like
Sure.
in case we have any suggestions?
Sure.
Thank you.
I know, I might,
I'd still like to have
It'll
a
be simple.
date that we shoot for.
I know,
Madam
but sometimes the
And if
way
we
they've
have
been
to
phrased in the
adjust it,
past,
I'm aware.
it's simple, but it gives a mixed message. And I don't know. I haven't heard from one person that's happy with what's going on, no matter which way they feel about it. I haven't heard from anybody that's 100% fearful of it that's happy. I haven't heard from anybody that's never wore a mask that's happy. I haven't heard from a soul that's happy. I haven't heard from a teacher.
And
they
actually,
don't call you when they're happy.
actually, speaking of masks, I shared with Ms. Dowdy, you know, one of the governor's executive orders is children in daycares, overnight camps, they're not required to wear a mask unless they're 11 years old. You know, and then you read another executive order and it's you only wear a mask if you can't social distance. So there's a lot of conflicting things here, but, you know, I think most parents would agree to their children wearing a mask unless it wasn't, it was a health issue, I think, and our teachers would work with it. They want their kids back.
No, I agree with that. What I was saying was I've yet to hear from anybody on no matter which perspective of the issue you land that's having a positive result. I haven't heard from anybody. So everybody's being affected in somewhat in a negative way is all I was saying.
And honestly, we do have one small school that could probably come back K-5. Maybe we should have a pilot.
Yeah, it's great. Let's start it right over there at Knott's
Knott's
Island.
Island.
Okay, we have a we have a motion on the floor from Ms. Rose. Would you restate your motion, please?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we bring our kindergarten through second grade students back to school with a choice of virtual learning on September 21st. That gives us about 3 weeks, 2.5.
Okay, I have
2
a
weeks.
And I would also like, you know, to give, a part of this is I know transportation is an issue, but I really think the parents that have reached out to me, they've all said they'd be more than willing to transport their child. I think we would get a lot of support. Not all of our children have parents that can transport, but I think a lot of them would help us.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
Yes, I'll go ahead. I'd just like to say I don't have enough information to, to make a decision by voting on a specific date.
Yes.
And I know that.
I would just like to see us get that survey and then meet, as soon as we get that information, and then be ready to make a decision about a date. I just hate to put a date in there.
Well, my thoughts are have a target date. Let's work towards something. And then if we get information that says we cannot do this, well, then we have to adjust it. So I would like to have the target date with the ability to adjust it if it's not possible.
Well, I'd like to get the information and make a target date.
Well,
We'll make an motion to when we need to get the information by, so then we can move forward. Amend it.
We have a first and we have a second. Any further discussion? I would agree. I would like to get more information from Dr. Lutz and his team, and then I would like to get together and talk about it and see if we can put a plan in place to get some of our students, our younger students, back in the classroom. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Can
Motion does not carry.
Can we at least figure out how to get the kids that are special needs and IEPs in there in a short order? Can we at least agree that we're going to do that?
Yeah.
Can we
What
do that?
percentage of our students are special needs?
I want to sit somewhere between 12 and 14%.
Okay, so you're and that's throughout the whole, every grade.
That's the general.
Yeah.
I talked to Jamie Miller about this earlier today, and she said, if Plan B comes up, please talk to me because I'm concerned with what I'm hearing across the state, but not in the way you would think. And I only share that with because some places that are doing this, we need to learn from them so we don't get it, so we get it right, not wrong. We've done okay with this so far in terms of being patient, and maybe that isn't what the public wants to hear all the time, but a lot of things went out from other districts and they retracted. I'd rather be somewhat cautious and do it well than go into something and have to redo and then have a worse hornet's nest.
And I know that, but I also know some are still holding down the fort. Like I know Wake County, we've got a former first grader that I taught. She's teaching in Wake County. And I don't know if it's all of Wake County, but she's having class every day. So it is working some places. So if that motion didn't pass, I'd like to make a motion that we meet on a weekly basis to discuss progress with this, get surveys, get information every week. I don't think once a month is going to cut it, folks.
Can we get the survey, schedule a time that the survey's going out, have a projection when we're going to have the survey collected, and agree on a date that we're going to meet for a start? Can we do that?
Can I put together, not on the spot here, can I put together something tomorrow and get it out to you?
Yes, sir. But do you think it's reasonable that we would be able to meet by the second or third week of September at least?
Us to meet?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll put it together. Yeah.
So that we can.
Yeah. I need to get with our small team, and it's small. I need to get together with them and make sure that we have our stuff lined up, and then you'll hear back from me early next week.
Okay. And in that, can we also, while you're formulating that survey, can we figure out if we can get the kids that need the help the most entertained while we're figuring out the rest of it? Is there any way?
So that needs further investigation as well, because
we're going to double down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We would like some input on the survey.
Just making
if
sure
possible.
that the
I will present to you I'm sorry, Ms. Kraft.
No, go ahead.
I was responding.
Well, I just want to make sure that we make it very clear to the teachers and the parents that time is of the essence for this. So please respond to the survey, get it back to us as quick as possible, because we want your kids back in school.
I agree.
I've talked to some other I'm not far behind. I just don't want to. Very simple survey. It's not going to be a great depth. It's not going to have the depth that NAP had. We need. It's a great survey, but we don't need that level of depth. They're using it to inform their instruction in their building. We need to inform it at a district level. So.
Okay, you made another motion, Ms. Rose, so we need to address that. Do you want to rescind your
I would
motion,
I would like to make a motion that we meet on a weekly basis to gather information and move forward with getting our kids back in school as soon as possible.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
I'll wait and see what type of information Matt sends us.
Okay.
And I don't say that from, to be spiteful or anything. I have a kindergarten and first grade grandchildren that are both high needs special ed. So I like to see them back in school too, but also want to be safe.
Meeting on a weekly basis to get information is not going to hurt anything.
No, I just don't know if, like next week, if he'll have the information for us. That's all. That's why when we say a weekly basis, I just think then we're committing to.
Okay, could you put down a couple dates on your thing?
I guess all I wanted to say was if you I don't know that we need a motion. I think we need to meet next week, which I'm committing to, and then we need to set our next date. So, but I don't know, but I don't like to meet. I want to be efficient. Your time, you all have full time. You have other work that you do. I want to be efficient around that. If we were meeting to plan to return to school every week, so I do believe we're getting close to that mode again. So, but if we say in here that we're motioning and we're meeting every week and we don't need to, we don't need to rescind our motion to meet. We need to meet. We need to get this thing moving. I'll put a schedule together in the next day or two.
Okay.
And I'm going to get that out to you early next week, and I'll get a survey to you as well. And we'll meet on that survey, and I'll put the schedule, say, does this work? And it'll be something that it is timely, and so that we have target dates to get something done, and we're not talking about it we might be talking about it
So-
all year. I don't know. But does that make sense? I'm going to commit to that.
So are you saying it's possible to meet next Friday to discuss the survey?
To discuss what?
The survey, is that what you're
Well,
saying?
y'all,
I
so
won't
y'all
be
want
there.
I want
I'll
the
be at
survey to
Duke
go out
Medical.
sooner.
You'll be, okay.
You want to see the survey, though. Tomorrow's Friday, and it's Labor Day weekend on Monday.
I got all, the whole thing I'm working, so send it to me anytime.
Okay. We'll meet on Tuesday to look at the survey.
We will. We will?
Yeah, we don't need it. We can do it virtually now. We got that part
Okay.
down.
Oh,
Thank
my
you,
goodness.
thank you.
I am over the virtual.
Thank you for that commitment.
Need my
No problem.
Virtual works for me.
Yeah, we'll meet virtually, and it'll be around the survey, and we'll
Okay.
We'll
All
be
right,
fine.
so
Is it done? All right. Okay. Okay.
we do have a first, we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. The plan I think we have in place is for Dr. Lutz to go ahead and send out the survey. We'll regroup Tuesday of next week, but you'll confirm
We'll have a
that-
virtual meeting to
Yeah.
look at the survey
Yeah,
next week.
that-
We'll tighten it up. It'll be a short survey.
Okay, sounds good. And then what we can do after we see that and that's sent out, I'd like for us to meet on a weekly basis, get an update where we are, to put a plan in place. That sounds like a good idea. So let's do that.
That hasn't been passed.
No, but
When we have
It
a
doesn't have to be-
reason,
We'll
not
still
just
meet.
automatic.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a motion. We can do it. We don't have to have a motion. Okay, Larissa York, we had a 4 o'clock meeting this afternoon, and Miss York was able to go over a lot of things concerning the budget resolution. Oh, there you are. That podium, I didn't know if you were here. Come on up, Miss York.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, we had a 4 o'clock work session, and we went over our Currituck County Schools budget resolution for the fiscal year 2021. And the total of that budget resolution was $46,382,732.15. And I would just like to ask for you to vote to pass the budget resolution. And if you have any further questions, I can also answer them at this time.
I make a motion that we pass the budget resolution for the school year 2020-2021 as recommended by our finance officer, Larissa York.
I'll second that.
I have a first and I have a second. Any
I was
discussion?
going to ask her some questions.
Any discussion? That's
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you do that.
Okay, well, she said ask her some questions, and then,
No, we
Yeah.
have to vote on it first.
oh, we did, okay. So, did you, by any chance, know what that amount we paid for that legal services last year?
I did not have time to go back to
That's
my
fine.
office to look it up.
So, okay. I would suggest that we look closely at that figure when we get it, because we could probably have a attorney sitting here or there or anywhere at our meetings for the kind of money we're spending each year on legal services. So I would encourage us to investigate that, and if that comes to be true, I'd encourage us to act on it. I'd also encourage us to look deep at how we're spending these local funds and determine if we need as many of these administrative dollars appropriated in that manner going forward. Obviously, right now is not the time to make that decision, but when I'm looking at the amount of monies we're spending in those areas and the amount of monies we spend in other areas, it attracts my attention. And that's, I just make those two recommendations going forward.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like, speaking of the attorney fees, I'd just like to see what it is after Matt's first year, because I almost guarantee it'll go down.
It'll go down. It'll go down. Last year was a nightmare. And we called the attorney and we got a lot of things that we had to move through last year with attorney consultations and everything else. So I think that number will drop significantly this year.
I agree.
Okay,
I
so
can tell you that I budgeted 45,500 for this year. So if it goes down, then we can use that money elsewhere, or it can go into fund balance.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the
Approve.
consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Information items. Our next work session is scheduled October 6th at the Knapp Professional Learning Center at 4 p.m. And then following, just like tonight, we have our Board of Education meeting October 6th here at the historic Currituck County Courthouse at 6:30. Board member and superintendent comments. I'll start with Dr. Dobney.
It was kind of unusual when the school nutrition staff came up there, because out of the 6, 3 were former students of mine.
Oh, wow.
I guess I've been around too long. Anyway, I'd just like to congratulate Dr. Lutz. I know he will do a good job, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Ms. Kraft?
Yes, I visited 6 of our schools over the summer and this past week. I had the opportunity to pass out meals at our virtual convocation. It was very hot, but it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it and got to see many of our staff members. I want to thank each and every one of our faculty and staff for all their hard work to open our schools virtually. And I know that was so much harder. I believe you worked harder than you would have in a regular school opening, and I want to thank you for all that you do. I know it's not easy. And I, too, want to congratulate Dr. Lutz. I'm looking forward to working with you as our new superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. Mr. Croddick?
Yes, ma'am. I'd also like to congratulate Dr. Lutz, and I want you to understand that I do think you've been doing a good job, and I mean that. But also, I'm displeased with our adherence to policy, and that much before you got into that position. And so I'm not happy about that. And so another policy that, unfortunately, I'd like a legal opinion on. But so the General Statute 115C-47, powers and duties of a school system. And on 17A, it talks about adopting anti-nepotism policies. And so local boards of education shall adopt policies requiring that before any immediate family, as defined in General Statute 115C 12.2, of any board of education member or any central office staff administer, including directors, supervisors, specialists, staff officers, assistant superintendents, area superintendents, superintendents, or principals, shall be employed or engaged as an employee, independent contractor, or otherwise by the Board of Education in any capacity. Such proposed employment or engagement shall be disclosed to the Board of Education, approved by the Board of Education in a duly called open session. And the burden of the disclosure of this such conflict of interest shall be on the applicable board member or central office staff administrator. And so I'd like to know from our legal counsel, first of all, do we have a local policy that runs parallel as that's been part of the general statute for many years? And what does that mean? And are we adhering to it? Because I personally, I'm not so certain we are. And with that, I hope we all return back to school very soon. And God bless Currituck County.
Ms. Rose?
I would like to congratulate Dr. Lutz, and I thank you for taking my phone calls and my text messages when I need information. I appreciate it. I would like for us to add to the next agenda something about our anti-bullying program. I know we don't have the kids here to really implement, but we did do some training a year ago last summer, and I hope that we've got everybody trained now, since it's been a year, and we can be ready to implement when the kids return. I also would like for us to move forward with getting our student board members on board, because now I think the governor is allowing us to have like 25 in a room, so maybe we can bring them back. They're very valuable to our board. And I would like for us to look at our press boxes next when we get to capital improvements, okay? Just put it on your notes.
Thank you, Ms. Rose.
Thank you. And, oh, one more thing. Of course, a big thank you to our parents who are serving as teachers now, and our teachers who are working hard to implement all these wonderful lessons for our children virtually. I know it's hard, and my hat's off to all of you.
Thank you. Dr. Lutz?
Well, first off, I'd like to thank the board for an opportunity that, quite honestly, you go through life, and God has plans. He saved me from myself a few times, and I heard that line years ago, and I guess He had me prepared to take on this job and to serve this community and to serve our students and the board and our families. So I appreciate this opportunity greatly. Certainly did not think I'd be in this seat even when I hopped in the interim role. I really didn't. And I'm proud of our staff, and I want to make that clear how proud I am of our staff and the work they've done to get this year even up and running. It's like being a first-year teacher all over again, isn't it, Mr. Griffin? I've been in the classrooms, and I can feel the stress, although I've seen some positives as well. I've seen some of that relief as we're getting some level of comfort. I also wanted to update you on accreditation. Ms. Dowdy and I had a meeting regarding accreditation. We're trying to get some solid figures and numbers so that we can work with our county commissioners to move forward in that direction. I wanted to update you as well. The federal government granted a food waiver, which will allow us to serve our community much like we did in the spring, without the same stringent requirements that we thought we were going to have to work on. So that's a real positive in being able to keep our kids fed and our families fed. And that was a great message to start the day. I really enjoyed hearing that. I heard the anger part. There's a lot of anger right now, and we do choose how we are going to feel, and how we can all be reminded of that and like do that. So I hope everyone has a great Labor Day and enjoy that 3-day weekend. And once again, thank you all for the opportunity. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lutz. And I, too, would like to congratulate you, and I look forward to working with you. And great things are going to happen. Hopefully we'll get back to school soon. I mean, that's all of our goal, and we're going to try to see if we can make that happen. I want everybody to have a happy and safe Labor Day weekend. Enjoy family, and we will see you soon. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you. Have a good night.
Do we need a motion?
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second, and meeting is adjourned.